And it's a good Sunday morning. Welcome to Church of the Total Man, a church for men. Today we're going through Proverbs chapter 17. So get your coffee, get a Bible, or just sit back and listen to wisdom of the ages. Better is a dry morsel with quiet than a house full of feasting with strife. A man settles where he has peace. Better is a dry morsel with quiet. It's better just to have a bowl of cereal and live peacefully than to have an entire banquet, have a refrigerator filled with food, and have a house that has arguing and strife, wife and kids creating strife, particularly a wife. We've heard many times in Proverbs about these comparisons. It's better to have this than this. Are they literal? I don't know. Are they meant with a little bit of tongue-in-cheek? I don't know. But hey, you're better off. You're better off with a piece of dried crumb than you are with a lot of food and a banquet and a feast in a house that has contention in it. What does that tell us? Is that a commentary about food? Nope. Is it a commentary about our household? Yes, it is. It's a commentary about peace in the household. It's a commentary about getting along with one another. Does this apply just to men? I think it can apply to everybody. That it's better to have little and have peace than have a lot and have strife. A servant who deals wisely will rule over a son who acts shamefully, and will share the inheritance as one of the brothers. There's always somebody who acts shamefully, whether it be one of the children somewhere, right? One of the offspring. Doesn't matter if you're a president. Doesn't matter if you are merely the head of a household, family. There's always one that is just a little more, I was going to say that's more trouble than the others, but I'll say it this way. There's always one that's a little more challenging than the others. And you have to be ready for that. Doesn't matter where you are. There's always going to be people who are challenging in your lifetime and bring shame, acting shamefully. We don't see the word shamefully or shame used a lot. Shame can be a real good motivator. Like, you don't want to shame your family. People worked hard to not shame the name of their family. You represent your family. Do you come from a family of goofballs? Maybe it's time for you to stop that. You can actually stop that trend in your family. There might be generations of people who were drunkards or fighters and arguers and dysfunction. You have the ability to put that to a stop, which I think is kind of cool. You can start something new for your family. The crucible is for silver, and the furnace is for gold, and the Lord tests hearts. Isn't it interesting that God testing our heart is compared to a crucible? A crucible. Heat. Pressure. God tests us through heat and pressure and the furnace. What do those things do? They break down the elements of silver and gold. They also purify silver and gold. You don't feel like it when you're going through stuff, but you are being purified. I even hate to admit that many times troubles and heat and pressure cleanse us. How many times have you been through something and you say, never again will I do that? Because why? Because it hurt. Because the consequences were not cool. An evildoer listens to wicked lips, and a liar gives ear to a mischievous tongue. What are some of the things that you watch on YouTube and Rumble and BitChute, all the different video platforms? An evildoer listens to wicked lips. There's a lot of wicked lips out there that are not teaching men the right way. Anyone that encourages you to act out your anger, notice I didn't say to not be angry. You are to be angry, but don't sin. You can be angry. It's all right. Anger's on my resume. Rage helps me get things done, so to speak. Whoever mocks the poor insults his maker. He who is glad at calamity will not go unpunished. Don't celebrate people being hurt. Don't celebrate calamity in a family. Like God evens the score, so to speak. Like you don't add any weight in your favor by celebrating someone else's pain or calamity. Grandchildren are the crown of the aged, and the glory of children is their fathers. Yeah, we talk about providing for our grandchildren, our children's children. Wouldn't it be great to leave something to your children's children? And the glory of children is their fathers. That's kind of like the centerpiece of today's teaching. The glory of children is their father. We are very important in our children's lives, and for those who don't have children, just know that you will be so important in their lives. And there's a lot of things that would separate you from your children, including a judicial system, which is not fair, a tilted playing field. And this is one of the reasons why many men tap out, why many men just refuse to be part of the system and participate in a system that is tilted against them. It's no longer a theory. It's not a conspiracy. It happens. The glory of children is their father. I'm not going to add to this. I'm always afraid to add to scripture. I just don't want to do that. But I will give this comment. I will say that with a comment. The glory of children is their father, if they have access to their father. How can a father be glorious in a child's life if he doesn't see the child and have an impact on their life and feed them, put them to bed, and teach them things? Fathers are important here at Church of the Total Man. That's why I say it's a church for men. Fine speech is not becoming to a fool, and still less a false speech to a prince. Communication. The Proverbs have commented a lot on our communication, things that come out of our mouth, referring to our words as our tongue, a wicked tongue, a tongue that blesses. Finer speech is not becoming to a fool, and still less a false speech to a prince. A bribe is like a magic stone in the eyes of the one who gives it. A bribe is like a magic stone. I don't even know what that means, a magic stone. Let's see if there's a note. Bribery is often effective. The observation of corrupt human behavior is made without passing moral judgment. Bribery is condemned. Wisdom rejects pragmatism in favor of obedience to God's law. Bribery happens, it can be effective, but it is not encouraged. A magic stone, magical thinking that you have special powers. Wherever he turns, he prospers. A bribe is like a magic stone in the eyes of the one who gives it. Wherever he turns, he prospers. What can you bribe people with? Money? Favors? promises, positions of power. I've always said that money, sex, and power are tremendous influencers, and everything revolves around money, sex, and power. Everything. A bribe is like a magic stone in the eyes of the one who gives it. Wherever he turns, he prospers. I don't think that's saying it's right. When I think of bribe, I also think of blackmail. I think of holding something against somebody for later manipulation. That's usually what bribes do. Whoever covers an offense seeks love, but he who repeats a matter separates close friends. Who covers an offense? How do you cover an offense? If someone does you wrong, what do? Is it all about forgive and forget? You can forgive, but you don't have to forget. Sometimes you're foolish if you forget how people act. And why do we forgive? We forgive for ourselves and also to free other people. Many times when you forgive, you release people from their guilt. Maybe that's not an incentive to forgive because you want them to feel the guilt, right? But whoever covers an offense seeks love. A more loving life is a more forgiving life. I'm not saying overlooking offenses. And if you keep repeating things, you separate close friends. A rebuke goes deeper into a man of understanding. Yeah. Wise men learn from their mistakes, and they take a rebuke seriously. Then 100 blows into a fool. Did you ever get a speeding ticket? You're not so quick to drive 80 miles an hour after that, are you, on that same highway? You get punished. I'm not a huge fan of speeding tickets, but the reality is a wise man will look at how he was corrected and learn from it. A fool, 100 speeding tickets won't change his behavior. An evil man seeks only rebellion, and a cruel messenger will be sent against him. Let a man meet a she-bear robbed of her cubs rather than a fool in his folly. It's better to be around a bear protecting its cubs than a fool in his folly. Now, is it encouraging you to be around a bear, a wild bear and its cubs? No. What it is saying is that, look, here's a dangerous situation, but here's another situation that's even more dangerous, and that's being around a fool doing foolish things. If anyone returns evil for good, evil will not depart from his house. When people do good things for you, acknowledge it. The beginning of strife is like letting out water, so quit before the quarrel breaks out. He who justifies the wicked and he who condemns the righteous are both alike an abomination to the Lord, justifying wicked behavior and condemning the righteous. Prisons may be filled with innocent people. It's a possibility, right? People who have been framed. I learned a long time ago that everybody who is behind bars, that there is a double justice system that favors some and condemns others. Why should a fool have money in his hand to buy wisdom when he has no sense? Do you multiply money, or do you just hang on to it, or do you just blow it? What do you do with money or resources or people? A friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for adversity. Friends and brothers are good for when you have tough times. They help. It helps to have someone to call and say, hey, you got a minute? One who lacks sense gives a pledge and puts up security in the presence of his neighbor. Yeah, co-signing for somebody. That's been a popular phrase these days, right? Yes, I co-sign that. In other words, I agree with that. I wouldn't be so fast to co-sign what people say on social media or in the world. There are people that you may have supported who ended up being in a pretty bad position from things that they've done. People that you followed on social media, YouTube, various groups that you might be part of that bill you $49 a month, $99 a month, and you're part of a group of men. I'd rather see you be part of this group, the Church of the Total Man, than to be part of a group that's acting foolish and is not there for you if you fall. Whoever loves transgression loves strife. He who makes his door high seeks destruction. A man of crooked heart does not discover good, and the one with a dishonest tongue falls into calamity. The importance of telling the truth. He who sires a fool gets himself sorrow. Isn't that the truth? A foolish son is not a good thing for a father. That's the last thing a father wants to be known for, is to have a foolish son. The father of a fool has no joy. The father of a fool has no joy. Wow. That's pretty wild. A joyful heart is good medicine, but a crushed spirit dries up the bones. I think in an older version it said a merry heart does good like a medicine. There's nothing like being satisfied. There's nothing like being happy. And there's a lot of parallels here. It's better to be happy in a small house or eating a dry morsel than being at a feast with strife. I love these comparisons. A joyful heart basically is like good medicine, but a crushed spirit dries up the bones. Discouragement dries up the bones. What else? Breakups, divorce, separation from your children that you love, losing a job. This is why you need to seek joy. What brings joy? It has to come from within, from God's Spirit within you. That's the only thing, because you can be sitting amongst rubble and still have joy. A wicked person accepts a bribe in secret to pervert the ways of justice. An observation, yes. The discerning sets his face toward wisdom, but the eyes of a fool are on the ends of the earth. What are you looking for? Are you looking for the best version of everything? That's where wisdom is. The discerning sets his face towards wisdom, efficiency, effectiveness, not foolishness. A foolish son is a grief to his father. Now we're getting into fathers and sons. And bitterness to her who bore him. So it's now talking about fathers and mothers here. Not a lot of talk about mothers and women so far, is there, historically, in Proverbs? That just stood out. You can bring bitterness to your mother and grief to your father with your foolishness. How many have ever done foolish things that may have embarrassed your mother and father, that may have tarnished the family name, right? To impose a fine on a righteous man is not good, nor to strike the noble for their uprightness. Whoever restrains his words has knowledge, and he who has a cool spirit is a man of understanding. That's interesting, right? Cool. A cool spirit. Versus a hothead, a hot-tempered person. He who has a cool spirit is a man of understanding, controlling your thoughts, your words, your actions. Even a fool who keeps silent is considered wise. When he closes his lips, he is deemed intelligent. Many times it's better to say nothing at all than to open your mouth and reveal foolishness. Just by keeping your mouth shut, you can appear more intelligent. So maybe rather than giving your opinion and commenting on everything, or opening up your mouth, or giving a snappy comeback, maybe it's better just to keep your mouth shut, because your mouth can escalate issues in family, in society, in court, on the street, amongst friends. Well, that's chapter 17 of Proverbs. I hope you learned something, and I'll see you next week on Church of the Total Man, a church for men.